Trump has intentionally cleaved America into two warring camps, pro-Trump or anti-Trump. Now, most Americans aren't passionate conservatives or liberals, Republicans or Democrats, but they have become impassioned for or against Trump. As a result, people with different political views have stopped talking with each other, which is a huge problem because democracy depends on our capacity to deliberate together. So what can we do?
Frankly, Mr. Wright, the first thing you could do is stop being a hypocrite. Stop blaming Trump for what you yourself are doing. Flat out. Middle America is increasingly becoming sick of this. There's no getting around it. You yourself have made a number of blame Trump and it's because of Trump and Trump and Trump and Trump videos. The dead honest reality is it isn't Trump that's dividing the nation. Trump's election, Trump in office, is a byproduct of an issue that existed before Donald Trump ever ran for office. And that is, quite frankly, the victim Olympics has begun to implode in on itself. It is not Trump that is dividing the nation into pro-Trump and anti-Trump. It is the far left that is assuming anybody who isn't in the far left extreme is their enemy, and therefore a manga, and therefore Trump, and. Let's be honest about who's dividing.
All of us to begin talking across the Great Divide. Here are 10 suggestions. Number 1, don't avoid political conversations with people who are likely to disagree with you, even in your own family. To the contrary, seek them out and have those discussions.
Hey, right there, number 1. That is something that, quite frankly, right now in this day and age, conservatives, independents, and moderates on the right are all happy to do. Fringe moderates on the left are increasingly moving towards being independent because they are tired of opening their mouth and instantly being attacked by the far left for not blindly repeating what that person assumes to be fact. So I'm very confused because you foster the kind of echo chambers that you're saying are the problem.
Number 2, don't start by talking about Trump.
He started the video off by talking about Trump and saying Trump is dividing the nation and. Again, these are things that Robert Reich is contributing to being problems, and he can't do the solutions he advocates himself.
Start instead with kitchen table issues like stagnant wages, shrinking benefits, the escalating cost of healthcare, college, pharmaceuticals, housing. Number 3, make it personal. Ask them about their own experiences and stories. Share yours. Try to find common ground.
Welcome to how I've approached politics my entire life. I don't seek out people who agree with me. I actually do want to understand my opposition's viewpoint because while I may dramatically disagree with their methodology, I may agree with a problem that I've overlooked needs to be addressed. And that's common ground, and we can come together and address the issue. We can then debate about how in theory versus practice we actually solve the problem. But first we have to find the common ground and agree on what the problem actually is. Again, have you tried to do this with the current extreme left DNC? You point out that you don't hate the people they claim are victims, but that their solution is hurting the very people they claim to be trying to help, and you're suddenly a racist and a Trumpist and a right-wing wacko and. God's forbid you commit the crime of thinking critically, working the problem, and trying to find common ground to be a people.
Number 4, ask them why they think all this has happened. Listen carefully and let them know you've heard them. Number 5, if they start blaming immigrants, or African Americans, or elites, or Democrats, or even Obama, stay cool. Don't tune out. Ask them about why they think these people are responsible.
First, go comment in inequality media and point out how some of it is propaganda and how the positions are being presented hyperbolic, and you will never bring up all the things that the talking points. He's being very hyperbolic here, and he's basically painting the narrative. Well, everybody who disagrees with us is racist and hates immigrants. It's not, because that's the party line right now. It's just, but that's not true. The reality is there's a lot of people who care about illegal immigration that want also immigration reform. They want the borders controlled and slammed down so that it's impossible for people to illegally cross them, which is, a fantasy land. That's never going to happen as long as there's economic incentive to migrate to the United States. But they're not anti-immigrant. They do want a working immigration system where people can go to the border legally and legally cross and legally come here. The hyperbolic nature in which these issues are being divided into, you are forbidden to be a moderate or right-leaning, but now you're an enemy. And basically what he's advocating here is hear them out, but we all know they're full of shit. That's the undertone is how he presents this.
Number 6, gradually turn the conversation into one about power. Who has it? Who doesn't? Ask about their own experiences at work, what's happened to their jobs, how others among their families and friends are treated. Number 7, ask them about the roles of big corporations and Wall Street. For example, why is it that when corporations and Wall Street firms violate the law, no executive goes to jail? Why Wall Street got bailed out during the financial crisis, but homeowners caught in the downdraft didn't get help? Why big oil, big agriculture, big pharma, and Wall Street hedge fund managers get special subsidies and tax loopholes?
People who actually agree with what Robert Reich says actually want to hear the answers to these questions. But by all means, comment below. We'll have very open dialogues and debates. But those are loaded questions. Why do we have tax loopholes? Well, my response to tax loopholes, to any of y'all I want to know, okay, why is it a loophole when somebody who has worked their ass off to build something uses the tax code to keep food on their family's table, and it's a deduction when somebody you like, or somebody on your side, or somebody who you deem to be poor enough uses the exact same loopholes as deductions to pay little or no or negative taxes? Why can't we have this conversation? Why can't we stop loading the words and stop changing what we call things based on who's using them? These are either deductions we want or we don't. Let's stop complaining that they benefit people who pay taxes more than people who pay little or no taxes.
Number 8, get a discussion going about how the system is organized, for whom, and how it's been changing. For example, why is it that only 4 major airlines fly today when a few years ago there were 12? Why are there only 4 internet service providers? How is this increasing concentration of economic power across the entire economy driving up prices? Why are pharmaceutical companies and health insurers able to charge more and more? Why can corporations and their top executives declare bankruptcy and have their debts forgiven when bankruptcy isn't available to people laden with student debt or to homeowners who can't meet their payments?
Okay, first, the last point is a lie. Bankruptcy is available to homeowners who can't make their payments. In a few states, we even have this thing called homestead, where when you file Chapter 13 bankruptcy, you can actually keep your home and restructure the payments into a debt forgiveness plan. So, Stop being hyperbolic and stop lying. And the fact is, flat out, every problem he just listed there have been caused or inflamed by policies the U.S. left has supported. Can we have this conversation about how good intentions have led to bad results? I agree the concentration of power is horrible. I agree adamantly that the fact that we have so much red tape and government bureaucracy that it's effectively creating government-enforced oligopolies that are then allowed to abuse the consumer. That's hardly capitalism. Oh, I'm breaking one of his rules because I said capitalism. God's forbid. But that's the problem right now. That's why the United States is so divided. The people desperately want to have these conversations. 40% of the people, the largest group, are independents who think both the left wing and the right wing are just nuts. They're like, can't we just talk about the issues instead of towing the proverbial party lines? Okay. Can we? Can we, Mr. Reich? Can you stop putting out propaganda? Can you stop pretending your solutions don't cause as many problems? Can you stop pretending your ideology isn't hurting the very people you claim to care about? Can we have this conversation? I would welcome this conversation. But can you have it?
Why are the biggest benefits from the tax cut going to billionaires?
The biggest benefits from tax cuts are going to the wealthiest Americans because the two groups in the United States that pay almost all of the federal taxes are either the mega rich or the uber upper middle class, which represent the vast majority of income in any given year. I know this doesn't fit with Robert Reich's ideology, but the fact is, when your current effective tax rate is between -3% and 6%, you are not going to get the lion's share of tax cut benefits that somebody whose effective tax rate that is between 15 and 40% is going to get. This is a math thing. It's just how it works. When you have a progressive tax code, as Mr. Reich advocates for, the lion's share of any tax cut benefits will go to the people who actually pay the goddamn taxes.
Number 9, then get to the core issue. Do they think any of this has to do with big money in politics? Is the system rigged? And if so, who is doing the rigging and why? How can average people be heard when there's so much big money in politics? Should we try to get big money out of politics? And if so, how do we do it? Now notice, you're not using labels. You're not talking about Democrats or Republicans, left or right, capitalism or socialism, government or free market. You're not even talking about Trump. You're starting with the everyday experiences of most people, with their wages and living expenses and experiences on the job, and from there moving to economic and political power.
He said power several times in this video, and that's kind of the real issue and a real problem right now, and it quite frankly undermines the very discussion he claims he wants to happen. And that is the way in which he's framed this narrative and phrased these points. Most of these points, I agree, are points that the American people desperately need to talk about, candidly, bluntly, and openly. You know, basically check the feelings at the door, check the prejudices, check the assumptions at the door, and have the argument based on data and statistics and reality, not ideology. But, and here's the real but, the way he's phrased this, he wants to have a Dunning-Kruger and ad populum argument. Well, what do you think about power? Do you think the right people have the power? Not does the data support your feelings. What do you feel? Not what is reality. What do you feel? How do you feel about this problem? Do you feel the world is fair? If you're not on top, most people don't think the world's fair. It's like, well, I should be on top. What did you do to earn that? You know, it's... And it is really ironic that a man who basically claimed Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution is a threat to democracy wants to then advocate having a talk about power and money in politics when he is running a powerful political propaganda machine that is trying to control the narrative and dialogue to get what he wants. You don't see any hypocrisy there? Yeah, we can't have that. Can we have that conversation, Mr. Wright? Hi, everyone. You made it to the end of the video. Congratulations. Almost no one does. At least that's what the analytics say here on YouTube. Since you made it this far, you might want to consider going one more click and expanding that description down there and go ahead and clicking over to Patreon and become a, patron and contributor. If not, you'll also find it over in the channel page. But hey, regardless, there's this like-dislike thing, so by all means, downvote if you think I should shut up, or upvote if you'd like to hear more. And if you really feel inclined to do, at least you can do is subscribe. But hey, it's up to you.